Welcome to Let's Get Writing. Let's Get Writing is all about the process from creation to publication. And here is where you can find inspiration, ideas, and meet the people behind the stories. We bring life to books, is what I like to say. I'm your host, Catherine Taylor, and so glad that you could join us. And remember, you can always ask a question in the comments on this page, and we'll do our best to respond. Now, my guest today is a much-loved storyteller. She is one of Newfoundland and Labrador's most beloved, prolific, and respected authors. Winner of provincial and national awards, published nationally and internationally. And tonight, she has a virtual book launch at 7 p.m. live from her Facebook or on her Facebook page, and also on Flanker Press's YouTube channel. And Flanker Press, of course, is the publisher for her book. And we have that link shared for you below. And she will also be doing a reading from her book this evening, The Hanged Woman's Daughter. That's her most recent book. With such a busy day, I feel quite fortunate to have her here. And I want to welcome her to the show. And she's joining me now, all the way from Pasadena.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Nellie P. Strowbridge. It's so nice to see you. What a beautiful day it is here in central Newfoundland.
And how is here too?
Is it?
Makes you think that summer is soon coming.
I know, it gives us hope. We didn't even get our winter till halfway through February in terms of snow.
I really like that. I'm waiting for flowers to spring now.
Well, on a day like today, I feel like they could be springing anytime. It's so beautiful. But I love the part of the island where you live and have spent a lot of time there.
Oh, I love it here. It's great.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And there's so many beautiful areas of our island. And if anyone's watching who's not actually from Newfoundland, you need to check it out, don't they?
Yes.
You know, Nellie, it's not only tonight you have the virtual book launch, but you're also going to be at the craft fair at the Civic Center in Corner Brook this Saturday. What's going to be happening there?
Oh, there'll be so many people milling around. Of course, they do have to keep their 6-foot distance. But it's been so long now since there was one there. So I think it's going to be very exciting.
Absolutely. So you're going to be signing copies of your latest book, The Hanged Woman's Daughter? Yeah. So folks, any of you who actually...
people, yes.
Yeah.
They'll chat here and there.
Absolutely. And so if you want an autographed, a signed copy of her latest book between 10 and 3 p.m. on Saturday. Yeah. Be there. And so you'll be talking to people. That'll be wonderful. You must be looking forward to it.
It's about a subject that's not so great. It does have its triumphs, and it's hope for the future. So I think people will be inspired by it.
Well, I just finished reading it, and I have to say, I know it was a difficult topic, and it almost really comes from the title, The Hanged Woman's Daughter, which really is what she was left to deal with after her mother was hanged. And Nellie, the first book was extremely successful. It was a bestseller for you, about Catherine Snow. Maybe you want to talk and just set the stage for us a little bit.
For Catherine Snow.
Yeah.
Where could I begin? Well, she was charged with having her husband killed by two men, Tobias Mandeville and also Arthur Spring. And they were just young fellows. They were supposed to have killed John or Catherine. But actually, there was no really evidence that he was even dead. And the judge was after saying, well, you have to have evidence that somebody is dead before you convict somebody. But there was a lot of bigotry and politics and money. You know, the Protestants were polarized with the Catholics. So she was hanged and quartered. Something that was done away with in England in 1814. Well, I think I'll have to do an article on my reasons that she shouldn't have been hanged. So I have so many. I can't get into it today. There's just too many.
Absolutely, but how, I mean, that's based on a real historical fact. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, and I did so much research. I've got 4 binders, so I had to get the feel of the place, the feel of the time, and how people treated each other. And of course, women weren't treated very well back then. She was a poor Irish girl, and John was a well-off Englishman. So everything polarized in that way. And the merchant, his servant was Tobias, and he'd come over and do John's books over in Salmon Cove. Of course, then he knew, and his boss knew, whatever John was doing. So that could have been a motive for John disappearing, unless John took his money box and disappeared with all his money, because
Mm,
afterwards there was no money left for the children. They scattered the children. The magistrate had the children scattered, except for the one born in prison, which was Richard, and Bishop Fleming found a place for him. And so Bridget was left. She lost her mother and her father, and her siblings were scattered after she had to take care of them for a year or so. And then she was left with the house being taken from her, the homestead. And so one night she just gets in her father's little boat and takes off,
mm,
not knowing where she would end up, not really caring.
mm. I know when I read that part, I was thinking like,
Can't tell anything.
I mean, to think to get in a boat, which I'm assuming is kind of like a dory type boat.
Yeah, just a small craft. I guess we would call them a flat, but I didn't put that in there because some people wouldn't understand what a
Hmm.
flat was.
Yeah. And I mean, just to launch yourself out on the ocean, the Atlantic
Just
Ocean is,
under the moonlight and the sea
yeah.
breathing around you
Mm.
is poignant, really. And
Yeah, and that's where that book more or less starts out, and how her life goes. And we don't want to give anything away, because of course we do want
I
people
don't
to.
give anything away because it doesn't surprise us.
That's right. So Nellie, when you write a book like that, it had to begin with that piece of finding that piece of history and being inspired by it. How did you come across it, and how did you approach a project like that?
Well, I'm sort of triggered. I'm an intimist, so I have to feel something. I don't look at a screen and say, okay, what am I going to write? It has to
Hmm.
come to me. It has to be strong. It has to have purpose. It has to make a difference in my readers and the way they think. Like I want them to think about things in a way they never thought about before. When I read some of the newspaper accounts of Catherine, and it's like one just copied another saying the same thing about her. So I went to the court transcripts and I read through them, and then of course I really went through them and found it was just unreal things I found, that boggled my mind really. So I got into that and decided, well, they didn't prove that she was guilty, and look what they did with her, anger, and of course I grew up just living right across from Salmon Cove, and what I heard about this bad woman that killed her husband. Yet there was no proof. People just and this is what got Bridget to the gossip. She felt isolated and probably criminalized herself.
Hmm.
So she didn't belong there anymore. Because some of the people may have betrayed her mother. The men in prison were beaten up, or anyway, Tobias. He was found unconscious, and after that they got a statement. These statements were used in court against them, which we don't even know. They weren't sworn to.
Hmm.
So I guess I got into it, and then I thought about Bridget. Bridget needed her story told. She needed to go somewhere and find a life. And you'll even find at the end, which I'd forgotten about, you'll find Bridget at the end of her life in The Ghost of the Southern Cross. Ghost of the Southern Cross. I couldn't leave her alone.
She came back again.
My first book was Widdershins. And I remember, well, I had won some stories and there's some awards, first place awards in the arts and letters with these stories. So I decided to do the book called Widdershins, which means to turn back to time, or it could mean to break a spring. In the old days, they would break a spring, like turn it counterclockwise, and that would break a spell. So in one of the stories, this old man, he was drinking a lot, and then he gave this young fella a drink, and he died, right? And they turned back the clock to try to dispel that spell of drinking, like in the family, to forward in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I went in with Widdershins, and I think it was Donna Snellgrove. She was with, this is the book here,
Mm-hmm.
Esperson. And she looked at me and she said, well, I've got a whole pile of manuscripts. Should see that big pile there. And she said, I wouldn't be able to look at that for a very long time. So then I laid my manuscript down and I said, well, just read this. And then afterwards she said, oh, maybe in 3 months I'll get back to you. And about a month later, I got a call saying they would publish it. And then the next day, Bernice Morgan phoned and she wanted me to do some stories for Doris Elder Jar. So I did some stories for that one. And then I did a book of poetry on Shadows of the Heart. That one is still getting taken out at the library. One of it deals with my sister's 26 suicide.
So there are quite a few books that you've written, and yet you still continue to write. How do you stay so motivated to want to share these stories? Any secrets for people who are starting out?
Well, if you want to do something, you have to have the passion for it. And I have the passion for writing, and I'll do it no matter what. But I do have to make time for my grandchildren and my husband, so I try to work it in, try to balance it out a bit, because you can get caught up in doing something that's not really work, something you really enjoy. When I was doing the Newfoundland Tongue, my grandchildren were bouncing around me because I had to take care of them. My daughter was working, and so that was a great book to do, because I'd come back from Toronto, where I lived for almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's how I wrote Widdershins. It's about a little girl growing up in Newfoundland. I would not have that distance. You need distance from a story to bring you to it, to bring it up. You're up close to it. So anyway, that one. Yeah, I got lots of books there. Like coup, the word coup. You know what coup means?
No, I don't, and I'm from here. Educate me.
Coup means kiss. Now, if you say kiss, you go like, it's like a hiss, isn't it? But if you say coup, it's a kiss. That's a real kiss. You pucker your lips. Even a child in a crib could understand that from a mother. Coup. And I remember before my mother died, her sister-in-law came to visit her, and she said, I'll give you a kubel before I go. She said it just like it was a normal word to say, and I had never heard kubel. I knew about kub, but not kubel. Apparently is for adults.
Okay. And so all of that's in your book, The Newfoundland Tongue, I'm assuming.
So
All
that's
those.
in there.
Yeah.
It's still selling really well.
Well, it's fascinating, because maybe it's because we were an island, and maybe because so many different people landed here and settled, and there was a lot of isolation. And maybe that's where these words came from. You must have an opinion on that.
Well, I think so, because a lot of people came from Ireland and south of England, and they brought their words. And my father told me words that were never in print. It took me a long time to do the Newfoundland Tongue because I was just keep collecting things, right?
Hmm. And I
Cold
find
feet.
even in this book, there were all kinds of words I'd never heard
Oh, I
before.
didn't think I had too many in that one.
Oh, I started highlighting them.
Oh,
I said I have to start marking these words so that I can go back to them.
yeah, we
But
should
yeah,
bring them back.
I mean, they weren't everywhere, but there were a few in there, and I went like, "Oh, I've only heard." Well, I've heard my husband say some of them, and he grew up in Port Basque, which was a smaller place. I've heard him use some of the words, but they're not common in our language for sure. And
Shandy is a good one. Shalandi. That's a
Chelan,
dragonfly. We didn't have that one, but my husband's, I guess in Trinity and Bonavista, that was a word used for dragonfly. And I think that's really a wonderful word. Do you like it?
I love it. I mean, a lot of the words sound beautiful, and you can almost get an image from that when you tell me what it is. I'm going, yeah, that word makes sense. I can picture
Yeah.
sunshine off of dragonfly wings, and
And then, like the color
yeah.
is green. I see color in like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I see colors and all that. I see color in Shalandi, like it's a really bright green. Like a lot
Hmm.
of dragonflies are green.
Interesting. Well, if people haven't gotten that book, they're going to have to get that one as well as many of your other ones. And you have such a way with when I was reading the book, I had to read it almost a little slowly because sometimes I can go through books so quickly because the imagery you created all throughout the book, I was just like, this is such a beautiful way to say that. And I have to tell you that just made me feel just so nice when I read the book and I could visualize so much. You have a wonderful way with describing things.
That's what I wanted you to feel. I don't just write for myself, I write for my readers.
And how about that process? Give me a typical day when you're writing. What does your day look like, Nellie?
Well, it's hard to say. I guess I usually get up and have my coffee and my tea and not tea, my coffee and my toast in the morning. My
Hmm.
my husband, and I end up going to the computer. But sometimes I go out and feel the soft breeze and enjoy that in the wintertime. But it's a bit of isolation here now. But I guess it's coming to an end soon. But I think I would tell writers to write what they feel. Don't look at a blank screen and decide that it's too commercial just to write. Just sort of I don't know. But anyway,
Well, you know something because actually, even if I had a passage to read to, but I know I have the mark, but I'll never find it right now. But it's a delight going through and visually the way you describe things, and we go, oh, I wish I would think of that, and it inspired
that's
me.
another tip. If something comes to you, write it down and have a list of little things you'd like to say, or then if you want to fix it up later, you can.
Absolutely. And so when you sit down and you start, are you a writer that works from an outline? How do you approach a book?
Sometimes I start at the end. No,
Interesting.
I found out a syrup girl on a sawhorse. This girl was put on a sawhorse in 1704 and whipped and cold water put on her. I am working on that book. And so that triggered me. So I think I've got the end of that written first. And now I've got to decide who the main characters will be in it
Hmm.
because she dies. So I have to do that a little different. I guess all my
But
books are a bit different. I did the Southern Cross and it's the Ghost of the Southern Cross. That was my great uncle died on the Southern Cross when he was 23. And when his girlfriend found out that he wasn't coming home, she took the dress that she was knitting and unraveled it and let it fall around her feet. That was her acceptance that her boyfriend wasn't coming home. Or koozie. He was her koozie. That's what we used to say growing up. He's your koozie.
Not your boyfriend, your
I think it
koozie.
comes from, if you just twist it a little bit, you say cozy koozie.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that came from, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear a lot of words and sometimes figure these things out by how they sound.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating and how you take the stories and then build from there. Do you do character sketches or anything like that, or is it more of a flow
Well,
from your?
sometimes if I look at people, I say, that guy looks like a character. I think I'll describe him. So I'll have my little notes on these things. If I see someone I would like, somebody different who looks like, he'd be a good character in a book. So I think that's a tip for everybody, every writer.
Mm-hmm.
Write down what you.
And Nellie, when you started out, did you expect that you would write so many books and that you would receive such wonderful support and love from readers? I mean, your books sell wonderfully.
I didn't think about that. I was just thinking about writing, I guess. I was 14 when I was published in a newspaper. Family Hero was a magazine, actually. And it was about advice to young girls. And my letter was published. And maybe that was the beginning of my advice column.
I was going to ask you, were
Even
you?
12-year-olds used to run out to get that column in the TV topics. So this woman told him, my son, he's only 12 and he just can't wait.
So you did do an advice column. I was saying, well,
Well,
were you our dear Abby back years
well,
ago?
I met her in Toronto, actually.
Yeah.
A picture. Yeah, but I didn't think at the time. I think with me, I've just gone in steps. I haven't followed anything. I've just done what I wanted to do, and I had a great life doing it.
Wow. That's a
And I hope that I've made a difference in some people's lives. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to be a downer with people, even though that book might seem like that, but it's not really a downer, is it? You
Oh
read
no. No, it's not. It's I mean, there's truth there, and it gave me I thought about where women were and how they had no control over their lives. It made me reflect on how far we've come and the unfairness of when people first settled this island. I thought about that. I thought about how difficult it must have been, and how unfair. You had your fish merchants and you had your fishermen, and many people being illiterate. I mean, it's a wonder we're
it.
here the way
Well,
that we are.
I suppose you can't blame the merchants for everything because only for them, I guess the fishermen wouldn't have any place to put their fish or sell it. So,
Mhm.
but still, of course, corruption is everywhere.
Hmm.
With money makes corruption
Some things haven't
too much
changed.
of it.
Yeah. You want to know where things go? Follow the money.
Mhm.
I've got some nice photographs here that I just want to show, and maybe you'll tell us a few things about this.
If I
Let's bring them
remember.
up. Okay, well, you're
Oh,
going to
that's
have to remember. Yeah, what's
that one.
this?
I think that one is in Deer Lake at one of my readings. I did a tree, a Newfoundland word tree. I put words on the tree, and of course, I had people guess what they meant or sayings like cold water. That's what burns me. I like that one. That one was
Okay,
from a Deer Lake man. Cold water. That's what burns me. I thought that was so great.
that is
And
great.
so people learn too with that tree. I call it my culture tree. And you get all these little pearls of Newfoundland words.
Interesting. Nice idea to do, especially at this time if you're home with your children. What a great idea to
I think
take
it's
and
Deer
do.
Lake, or it could have been Bay Roberts. And I think that might be Costco.
This one here.
I should have
Interesting.
had them.
Well, it's a book signing. We know that, which we'll
It's a
see
book sign.
something.
That's Catherine Snow.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Okay.
Catherine Snow, I remember this woman came in and she said, "Did you write this book?" She said, "I read that." She said, "And I wouldn't let anyone speak to me for 3 days."
Wow.
And she said, "I have to shake your hand." And when she reached, Margot Cranford was there beside me, and
Hmm.
she saw my reaction. When she reached to shake my hand, it was just like a tremor went right through my body, electric shock, which was very strange.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, could she have been a descendant, I wonder? because she seemed to be so taken up with the book, but she didn't tell me anything. So I don't know. A lot of things happen like that with Catherine Snow. When I was
Interesting.
writing, I was sitting on the Chesterfield with my laptop, and my daughter-in-law was over in the chair, and I said to her, I was just typing up the end of the transcript where they were condemning Catherine to death, and I said, this cold wind blew around my legs. And I said, could you, after I did it twice, I said, could you check the door and see if anyone came in? But I had different incidents like that.
Well,
That's
maybe Catherine Snow was communicating with you to thank you for writing this story so people could hear her side.
yeah, maybe
And
she was.
maybe, and you do hear about things like that at times, that it's not
Yeah,
all what we see.
no, it's not all what we think. It's more beyond what we know.
Mm.
The
And
more you
here's
know, the less you know.
you don't know what you don't know. That's what I always
Mhm.
say. And this is another book signing. And then we've got, there you are, big smile on your face. And that would
Now, I
be
think the other one was probably in
this
Halifax.
book, I think,
Or
Made
maybe
in
that one was
Felicity.
in Halifax. Oh, that one I think was in Halifax at Cove.
Okay. In the mall.
Yes.
Yeah. The one of my favorite places. And then which one, what do we have here? We've got,
Oh, that one.
grandchildren.
Yeah, my Christmas book, I think. When the kids were small, the grandchildren. Yeah, the Christmas book is a lot of humor in it. They called it a classic. Actually, people really liked it. And
Wonderful.
CBC had some of the stories on that was in it. I put some humor in it. I like to have humor where I can.
Me too. I think it's such a
We need,
nice
we
element.
need more humor, right, in writing.
Yes. And it's not always easy to do. And Nellie, you're not going to believe me, but we're just about out of our time together for all the things I wanted to cover. I feel like I'm just getting started, and yet here I am almost at the end. But
Yeah.
I just want to thank you so much for taking the time, and I want to remind people again to check out your virtual book launch tonight. And that's going to be on your Facebook page, which is, I think I have that one up there, Nellie P. Strowbridge. And just a reminder of the book launch tonight. And you're going to be very busy. And thank you so much for taking time from your day to sit
I'm
with
so
me.
glad you had me today, and I'm so glad you really enjoyed the book.
Well, I think we need to do another one of these because you have a lot
We'll
of
do
little,
another one sometime.
yeah, and
Mm.
you have wonderful tips to share with writers,
I could
and
come up with a few more, I guess.
I think you could. We'll save some for tonight and for the craft show this weekend. And again, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is Let's Get Writing, and all of the shows are available on youtube.com, Catherine Taylor TV. So if you've missed something or there's an author you'd like to check on, go there. And again, thank you so much, Nellie, and have a wonderful
You're welcome.
day. And we'll tap in again soon. I've only gotten through maybe 1/3 of the things I wanted to ask you.
Okay, then. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, what do I do now?